Good morning and welcome back to Planet Althistory. Today we are going to discuss what if the Russian Revolution never happened. The context is the end of the long 19th century. The long 19th century started with the French Revolution and ended with the end of World War I. The changes in those years are closely linked with each other. New ideologies they were rising, imperialism was in full swing, revolts and revolutions happened frequently, and many parts of the world, especially Africa being the most noteworthy example, changed forever. Absolutism wasn't feasible anymore and many compromises they had to be made. Austria-Hungary saw an Ausgleich. France was flip-flopping between monarchy and republic. The Ottoman Empire launched reforms, and then we also have Russia. Russia already saw revolution in 1905. Simply put, the revolution of 1905 was a consequence of the bad Russian performance during the Russo-Japanese War in 1904-1905. That's a clear oversimplification, and we must also add other parts of the reality, such as the fact that the Russian Empire was a multi-ethnic empire with many nationalities and religion seeking autonomy, independence, or at least recognition of their own language. The conditions in Russia were very bad, hence why many workers they went on strike, but Russian society was mostly agrarian. However, just 40 years ago, before serfdom was ended legally, and as we know, if something ends legally, it takes time until it's completely abolished. The Tsar accepted some demands and the parliament, the Duma, was created and the constitution was written in 1906. The Duma had many parties in it, but it could not issue laws on its own. The reforms were thusly not enough. And with World War I and the bad morale, another revolution happened in 1917. People, they were fed up losing to the Germans, sending their boys and their men to the front, generals who were just out of touch with reality and the worsening conditions and economic conditions. Nicholas II wasn't able to rule over his empire efficiently, and with Lenin being released by the Germans and contesting power from less radical forces such as Kerensky, the Tsarist family was executed. Over the years to come, the Soviet Union was established, and the Tsarist system never made a comeback in Russia. But what if all of that changed? What if the Russian Revolution never happened? Let's discuss one point of divergence. The Russian Empire would accept or seek a separate peace deal with Germany. Nicholas II would be humiliated and the political right wing would be very furious at the ruler. Due to the situations that didn't change that much, we could potentially see a replacement of Nicholas II, or we could see revolts, revolutions, rebellions, and as a result, Russia could still potentially fall to the Bolsheviks. Maybe it wouldn't be Lenin in this case who would rule and lead, but it could be Trotsky in this timeline or someone else of the Bolsheviks. We can safely say that this point of divergence would just not work. Another point of divergence is that the Duma, for instance, would get more power and that more reforms they would have been made either during the revolution of 1905 or gradually afterwards. With that in mind, the conditions they could improve a little bit, but Germany would still win against Russia and Russia would not give up. Maybe the population will be a little bit more patient for a couple of weeks, but eventually Lenin would get released and the revolution would happen anyway. If we combine these 2 points of divergences, and a replacement improvement of the military leadership, the Russian Empire might be able to avoid the Russian Revolution completely. 2 radical demands would fall on deaf ears, and Lenin as well as Trotsky or Stalin, they would be nothing more than some extremists or bandits. Footnotes in history. Yes, Russia would at first give up some of their territories and perhaps the Entente. They would feel betrayed. But after the German capitulation, the Tsarist army would find themselves in a fight against the Caucasian states, Ukraine, Belarus, Finland, Poland, and the Baltics. The Caucasus could be taken somewhat easily despite the mountainous area. Belarus, due to a very weak national identity and no geographical defenses, Russia would retake most of it as well. Finland would probably be the first state Russia would let go. Ukraine and Poland would be very tough for Russia to retake. Piłsudski would anyway support Prometheism and establish an alliance just like in OTL with Ukraine. Due to the fact that Russian forces were spread thin in the Caucasus, Finland, Baltics, etc., Poland would end up with a similar border as in OTL. What's up, guys? Sorry for the little interruption, but I'm sure you have noticed that on my channel I have many videos that are scheduled for like 1 week, 2 weeks, or even 3 weeks. If you are really impatient, if you can really not hold yourself, and if you really must see these videos, please subscribe on my Patreon. There are various options which you can take. I'm sure you will find the most adequate option for yourself. And also please go down, check the links below for my Facebook page and also for my TikTok as well as for my Twitter account. And now let's go back to the alternate history video. Due to the absence of the Russian Revolution, Germany may be a little bit more stable at first. There would be no real motivation or momentum for the left wing to make revolutions or revolts in Germany. But without the Red Scare from the Soviets, it's very likely that Germany would turn communist, because communist parties and extreme left-wing parties in OTL, they were very popular. And with no Soviet Union, the Nazis wouldn't be that strong or even exist, and thus the communists would have more power and popularity. Poland would end up in a state of panic, while the Russian Empire without a Stalin would not conclude non-aggression pacts with Poland. The Allies wouldn't be very bothered by Russian claims in Eastern Europe, but Germany would make France very nervous. And as a result, a preemptive strike in this timeline might happen against Germany in 1935, as proposed by Piłsudski. This would lead Russia later on to attack the Baltics, and eventually they would attack Poland. I also want to comment that without a power vacuum and no Russian civil war, Russian fascism would never really rise in this timeline, as there wouldn't be any white army. Russian fascists in this timeline, they would be as important as they were in our timeline, which means that they would completely stay irrelevant. Japan in this timeline would, due to the geopolitical reasons, have an alliance with Poland, and it's possible that with an attack on Poland coming from Russia, the Japanese would be tempted to attack the Russian Far East, instead of attacking the French, British, Dutch and American colonies. Russia would be the country that would be at war. Britain would remain neutral. The Dutch too and the French with the Poles would have the situation in Germany under control. This would then motivate the Japanese to seek Russian territories, and it might result in potential gains for them. Poland in Europe would not be able to continuously push the Russians away. Romanians and the Finns, they might join in, as well as some independence movements, and there's a slight possibility that Britain would arm the Central Asians in order to get totally rid of Russian influence in India, since their army wouldn't be engaged in any other battle anyway. The Russian Empire may lose once again, because winning a multiple front war wouldn't be feasible. I'm not claiming that the Russian Empire loses because they are backwards, but everyone around them would want to get a piece of the pie. Finland would be enlarged, a small Międzymorze could exist, the Caucasus may get independence potentially with Turkish support, Romania would expand a bit, Central Asian people, they would also get their independence, and Japan would annex Russian Far East territories into their puppet of Manchukuo. At the end, Japan would hold into China, Korea and the Russian territories for a very long time, and I don't think they would attack Pearl Harbor. Poland would rise as the new power in Eastern Europe, with Russia and Germany being reduced into ashes, worrying the French and the Brits especially after some time. Polish ambitions, they could become very dangerous, and they could even rise and endanger Czechoslovakia and the Baltics. With no real World War II, colonialism may last a little bit longer, and eventually the colonies will gain independence, but the ties with the colonizers, they would be stricter, tighter, in a way where you have to imagine the Commonwealth with an economic union fused. There would be no Cold War. The US would be busy in their backyards, and isolationism would eventually be totally ingrained in the US society and the US identity. Europe, however, could become more problematic, and with more time passing, the Japanese could not be able to hold on all of China. What will happen next? Will Poland become responsible for a new big war in Europe or the world? Will Russia, after being beaten, just face a delayed Russian revolution? Will the French and the Brits hold on to their colonies? Or will actually Russia see a rise of some type of fascism or a completely new ideology? And that's where we leave it for now.
That's it for today. I hope you enjoyed my video. Be sure to like and subscribe, leave a comment, support me also on Patreon, and join my forum, forum.planetalthistory.ga. Until next time on Planet Alt History.